It is my view that the deceitful way the interview was obtained substantially influenced what my mother said. The interview was
Prince William's reaffirmation of Princess Diana's legacy was more than just a tribute, it was a defining moment that shook the foundations of Buckingham Palace. His public commitment brought renewed focus on his mother's influence, sparking debates about the monarchy's future and reigniting old tensions. While the royal family maintained its silence, the media and public took sides, turning William's words into a pivotal moment in modern royal history. Would his stance create further division within the palace? How did this declaration impact Queen Camilla's public image? And could William's leadership signal a new era for the monarchy? William spoke personally to the young awardees at the Diana Legacy Awards in London at the beginning of 2024, complimenting them on their efforts and their adherence to his mother's principles. "Thank you very much for inspiring so many others and at the same time protecting my mother's legacy. I really appreciate that," he said. His statements were sincere and received extensive media coverage. Many interpreted them as a confirmation of his long-standing dedication to carrying on Diana's humanitarian work. William's remarks had an instant impact. They were examined by media outlets, some of which drew attention to the discrepancy between his strategy and the ongoing hostilities between his younger brother and other members of the royal family. Others noted that William had been emulating Diana in many respects. His work in children's charities, homelessness programs, and mental health advocacy closely reflected the causes Diana supported. William had adopted a different strategy, one that seemed more consistent with the ideals Diana had espoused. In contrast to earlier royal generations, who often avoided emotionally fraught subjects, William took a more open and compassionate approach. Commentators and royal specialists quickly deduced the meaning of William's statement. Some said it was just a natural part of his job as Prince of Wales, carrying on a tradition that the people hold in high regard. Others, however, thought it had deeper significance, especially in light of the monarchy's continuous change. Comparisons between Diana and Camilla have never really gone away over the years, and any reference to Diana's legacy frequently sparked new conversations about the past. Whether intentional or not, William's remarks brought his mother's name back into the spotlight and demonstrated the lasting impact she continues to have. Reactions inside Buckingham Palace were measured. When it comes to Diana, the royal family has always taken a balanced approach, recognizing her accomplishments without letting past controversies overshadow the present. Although William's dedication to her legacy has long been known, his choice to make it clear in a public setting ensured the subject would always remain relevant. While King Charles has mostly concentrated on preserving stability within the monarchy, he has occasionally mentioned Diana, frequently in relation to her role as the mother of his sons. Sources close to the royal family indicated that William's comments were unlikely to cause any significant disturbance, even though the palace did not issue any official pronouncements in response. William is well known for his devotion to his mother's memory, and the royal family has always allowed him to pay tribute to Diana however he sees fit. The media's reaction was overwhelming. William's statements were analyzed in headlines across British newspapers, with some speculating on how his position would affect his future as king. There was discussion on talk shows about whether his increasing power signaled a shift in the monarchy's strategy for interacting with the public. Meanwhile, William received a wave of appreciation on social media, with many people praising him for his steadfast adherence to his mother's values. His admirers viewed him as the true heir to Diana's altruistic vision, a leader who recognized the value of maintaining ties with the people. For William, however, this had nothing to do with public opinion or media narratives. He has a strong personal dedication to his mother's heritage. Since Diana's death, he has worked to ensure her legacy endures, whether by supporting charities she once championed or by launching initiatives that reflect her values. His involvement with Child Bereavement UK, a charity Diana was strongly linked with, is among the most notable examples of this. During his February 2, 2025 visit to the organization's centre in England, William spent time with families who had experienced loss, strengthening his understanding of the psychological effects of grief, a subject Diana was fervently committed to. Diana's influence can also be seen in William's approach to public life beyond his charitable work. Three qualities that were essential to Diana's legacy: his approachability, his willingness to interact with people directly, and his focus on practical problems, define his leadership style. In many ways, his approach combines the contemporary, relatable traits that made Diana so beloved with the traditional royal responsibilities he upholds. The public's continued support for William's position highlights a broader discussion about the monarchy's survival. Support for the institution among younger generations has been waning, as they question its relevance in a rapidly changing world. Nonetheless, figures like Princess Catherine and William continue to command great respect, particularly because of their ability to connect with the public in a genuine manner. By aligning himself with Diana's legacy, William is not only commemorating his mother but also reinforcing his image as a modern leader within the royal family. His comments have undoubtedly rekindled public debates on Diana's influence. Even if they have not sparked conflict within the palace, her legacy still shapes people's perceptions of the royal family. William's dedication to upholding her memory ensures that she will continue to play a crucial role in shaping its future. At its core, William's devotion to his mother's legacy is not about defiance or division, it is about ensuring that the principles she championed continue to guide the monarchy. While his remarks resonated deeply with the public, their significance goes beyond headlines and social media trends. They serve as a reminder that Diana's legacy endures, influencing the next generation of royal leaders even decades after her passing. The public responded strongly to Prince William's reaffirmation of his mother's legacy, but the ramifications of his remarks were still being felt within the palace. Although Buckingham Palace did not provide an official statement, royal insiders reported a discernible shift in the mood. The monarchy, which has always handled Diana's legacy with caution, found itself at the center of a discussion it has long tried to avoid. The renewed focus on her influence was a reminder that Diana remains inextricably linked to the history of the monarchy and public sentiment, regardless of how much time has passed. William's remarks posed a unique challenge for King Charles. As both a father and a monarch, he had to navigate the complexities of a situation that was both personal and institutional. Over the years, Charles has made it clear that he is focused on the monarchy's future as a modern institution. Although he has never openly opposed William's efforts to honor Diana, his reign, still in its early stages, has been defined by attempts to modernize the royal family while preserving its traditions. Some in the palace questioned whether William's declaration could disrupt these long-term goals by pulling the monarchy's narrative back into the past. In private, the institution may have tried to move beyond the past, but in public, Charles had taken steps to acknowledge Diana's role in shaping the modern monarchy. However, the media had its own agenda. The public's enduring affection for Diana was more evident than ever, with headlines analyzing every aspect of William's speech. Inevitably, comparisons between Diana and Camilla resurfaced, leading some to question whether the monarchy had truly moved on from its past conflicts. Despite the absence of direct conflict between William and his father, observers noted that this situation highlighted generational differences in their approach to Diana's legacy. William's choice to speak so openly about preserving his mother's memory was not an isolated incident, it was part of a broader pattern that defines his public persona. Through his advocacy for mental health, his commitment to tackling homelessness, and his deep involvement with charitable organizations, William has deliberately aligned himself with the causes Diana championed. William has adopted a more direct and personal approach to leadership, one that strongly mirrors Diana's ability to connect with people. Unlike previous royal generations, who maintained a formal distance from public discourse, William has embraced a more open and engaged role. His statement sparked widespread public discussion, fueling speculation about its long-term impact on the monarchy. Many saw his actions as a glimpse into his potential reign, one that prioritizes social issues, transparency, and a stronger bond with the public. Relationship with the populace in recent years had seen a sharp increase in his popularity, especially among younger Britons who valued his readiness to discuss topics that were pertinent to contemporary culture. Although he maintained a strong regard for the monarchy's ideals, his leadership style was clearly changing and stood in sharp contrast to the traditionalism that had long characterized the organization. The resurgence of interest in Diana was probably not welcome to Queen Camilla. Despite being formally recognized as Queen Consort after Charles's accession to the throne, her public persona continued to be a delicate subject. For years, she had been trying to win over the public by doing a lot of good deeds and keeping a low profile. However, some people continued to see her as the woman who had taken Diana's place. In spite of these efforts, even if she didn't talk about her past much in public, occasions like this served as a reminder that Diana's influence had never really diminished. In the meantime, there were talks regarding how to handle the problem going forward in royal circles in order to preserve stability. The royal family had historically depended on carefully chosen public messages, but some of these conventional strategies were losing their effectiveness as a result of William's more intimate approach to public participation. Additionally, social media has altered the situation. Previously, the monarchy controlled narratives through news releases and official declarations, but because internet discussion circulated quickly, public opinion was influencing the conversation in real time. The palace could do nothing to divert attention from William's speech, which had swiftly emerged as one of the year's most talked about royal subjects. William continued to concentrate on his work in spite of the rumors. He kept up his interactions in the weeks after making his announcement, going to initiatives that matched his top priorities. He spoke with people who were directly affected by the homelessness issue during one of his most important visits to a central London initiative. It served as a reminder that, like Diana, he valued being there and paying attention to the individuals he was trying to assist. The impression that he was a king who was sympathetic to the plight of common people was strengthened by the sincerity of his interactions. As the debate over the monarchy's future heated up, the gap between William's strategy and the conventional royal method of handling affairs grew even more pronounced. Following his speech, polls revealed a discernible rise in his popularity, especially among people who had lost faith in the organization. His reputation as a sympathetic and approachable leader was growing, and many people thought he heralded a new century for the royal family. Even though King Charles had put a lot of effort into establishing his position as king, William's power was undoubtedly increasing. One issue remained as the public's interest grew: would the palace react at all? Would they try to change the story, or would they let the conversation develop organically? William's influence on the monarchy's future was becoming more and more obvious. Even though it had withstood centuries of change and adjusted to evolving social expectations, his pledge to uphold Diana's legacy was a declaration of intent rather than merely a tribute. It represented a dedication to principles that he felt ought to characterize the royal family going forward. A basic fact was at the heart of this moment: Diana's legacy was about the monarchy's continuous progress, not merely the past. The public's perception of the royal family had been influenced by her, and her influence continued to affect her son's decisions. Instead of focusing on the past, William wanted to make sure that the kindness and sincerity she contributed to the organization would continue to shape its future. The consequences of William's remarks persisted even after the initial media hysteria subsided. Although the royal family was progressing, Diana's influence continued to shape expectations, discussions, and the very definition of what it meant to be a modern royal. William had a clear route ahead of him, and the teachings his mother had taught him would endure along with her legacy. Whether the institution was prepared for it or not, the monarchy was evolving. Prince William's reaffirmation of his mother's legacy did not end the public conversation. His remarks had struck a chord outside the palace, igniting a broader discussion about Princess Diana's lasting impact and the future of the monarchy. William's dedication served as a welcome reminder to many of Diana's humanity, compassion, and resolve to utilize her position to effect real change. Others in the organization, however, questioned how the monarchy could move forward without being overtaken by the past. In light of the renewed attention being paid to Diana, the royal family, which is renowned for keeping quiet during contentious situations, had not yet made an official statement. King Charles had remained calm as usual, carrying on with his royal responsibilities without mentioning the escalating media frenzy. Others conjectured that this was a reflection of the challenging situation he was in, while some saw it as a conscious attempt to minimize the situation. His reign was still being shaped, and any mistake in how he handled the situation could change public opinion in ways that would be difficult to undo. He was well aware that Diana's name still carried a great deal of weight and that any reference to William's remarks might support a narrative that put Diana's legacy at the center of contemporary royal debates. It has been suggested that conversations within the palace focused on the wider ramifications of William's increasing power. Although his popularity had always been undeniable, his choice to publicly and directly associate himself with Diana's memory marked a significant change. The monarchy had moved past the turbulent years of the late 1990s and early 2000s, when the institution's existence appeared questionable, and had spent years meticulously sculpting its public image. Some in royal circles questioned whether William's strategy, which brought the past back into the spotlight, would cause the family to reposition itself internally in the years to come. As anticipated, the media kept examining the matter from all sides. William's position was hailed by several analysts as a necessary and progressive move forward, highlighting the need for the monarchy to welcome change rather than shy away from tough discussions. Others wondered if his strategy might inadvertently exacerbate already existing conflicts within the royal family, rekindling long-suppressed emotions that had taken years to resolve. Although there was no proof of direct hostility between William and other family members, the reaction of the general public indicated that attitudes were starting to change. Following his statement, William's favorability rating significantly increased, according to polls. Young people especially praised his willingness to talk about Diana's legacy and his ability to relate to contemporary challenges. The advisors to the monarchy, who kept a careful eye on the story's development, were aware of this change in popular opinion. Even though the organization had already overcome many obstacles, it was impossible to overlook the widening divide between popular opinion and royal protocol. Whether she meant to or not, Queen Camilla continued to play a major role in the story amid the continuing debate. Her membership in the royal family was still controversial. Despite the fact that she had dedicated years to her philanthropic endeavors and royal obligations, William's remarks had perhaps unwittingly refocused attention on the background of her relationship with King Charles. Even while public opinion of Camilla had greatly improved in recent years, Diana was unavoidably thrust back into comparisons she had made a concerted effort to avoid. According to several sources, senior aides had thought about how to handle the issue without specifically addressing the renewed interest in Diana's legacy. The royal family's long-standing strategy has been to let public debates unfold naturally, hoping that eventually, the conversation would turn to something else. Controlling the narrative, however, was getting harder in the digital age, as social media magnified every aspect of royal life. William's recent comments were now the focus of every public appearance he made, and the debate surrounding his statements was not going away as fast as some had hoped. William carried on with his engagements as usual in spite of the rumors. The next week, he visited a mental health group, which strengthened his ties to the concerns that had been at the heart of Diana's work. Speaking with those who are impacted by mental health concerns, he underlined once more how critical it is to approach these problems with compassion and understanding. It served as a reminder of how his mother had once changed how the general public viewed delicate situations by utilizing her voice to raise awareness of previously disregarded issues. Crisis also became a matter of fascination as the palace managed the continuous media attention. He had moved to the United States and resigned from his royal duties, but he shared William's personal commitment to Diana's legacy. Despite not making any public remarks, some stories claim that he had kept a close eye on the events. Many questioned if this occasion might further emphasize the two brothers' divergent trajectories or serve as a point of bonding given their prior conflicts. As William's influence on the monarchy's image grew, its wider ramifications became more apparent. King Charles was still in charge of the organization, but William was establishing himself as its leader. His relatable and modern public persona appealed to a generation that had become less convinced of the monarchy's continued importance. Like Diana, he was able to establish a strong connection with the public, which was a valuable skill that may shape the future of the monarchy. Despite the ongoing debates around Diana's legacy, one thing was certain: she had permanently changed the royal family. She had changed the fundamental definition of what it meant to be a royal in the contemporary world, and her impact went beyond the recollections of those who had idolized her. Her legacy was not merely a part of history, rather, it actively shaped the institution's future, as William's remarks had reaffirmed. As each day went by, it became increasingly evident that William's strategy for his position as Prince of Wales combined traditionalism with a readiness to address contemporary concerns. The monarchy, which is frequently viewed as a change-resistant institution, was now at a turning point. William had started a discussion that would probably influence his path to the throne. Whether on purpose or not, the debate around Prince William's reaffirmation of his mother's legacy had grown beyond a single speech and turned into a more comprehensive analysis of the monarchy's destiny. Analysts and royal observers pondered whether this event signaled a minor change in the royal family's power dynamics. While public discussions went on, it was more obvious than ever that William was becoming more and more influential in Britain and around the world. Even though King Charles was still in charge of the organization, the public's attention seemed to be drawn to William's image, which strengthened the notion that the next phase of the monarchy was already starting to take shape. Although the monarchy has always been a highly traditional institution, it has been under growing pressure to modernize in recent years. Decades had been spent by the late Queen Elizabeth II carefully balancing royal traditions with the changing expectations of the populace. That equilibrium was being put to the test in unexpected ways now that King Charles was in power. As William's position as Prince of Wales grew, he was no longer merely a supporting character. Rather, he was viewed as the face of the monarchy's future, one that was supposed to be more sensitive to modern societal concerns. Talks regarding how to handle William's growing public image were increasingly urgent inside palace circles. His ability to engage the public was viewed well, especially when it came to topics like homelessness and mental health. But there were drawbacks to his growing candor on his mother's legacy. The royal family had meticulously crafted Diana's legacy within the framework of the monarchy, even if they had never attempted to lessen her influence. William's strategy, on the other hand, was more straightforward and strengthened Diana's position in the public mind in ways that were difficult to manage. Queen Camilla's standing was directly impacted by the renewed focus on Diana's legacy. Camilla had put a lot of effort into creating a public persona over the years that was distinct from the scandals of the past. Alongside King Charles, she had assumed important royal responsibilities, sponsoring a number of charities. But the parallels between Diana and Camilla had never completely disappeared. Even as time went on, Camilla was in an unpleasant position as a result of the public's renewed interest in Diana's legacy, which she had long aimed to put behind her. In the meantime, King Charles carried on with his royal responsibilities without publicly acknowledging the discussions around William's statement. His strategy continued to be one of taciturn fortitude, emphasizing the monarchy's stability above media conjecture. Nevertheless, public debates concerning the ramifications of William's remarks continued. Despite his quiet, Charles's hesitation to speak explicitly about Diana's legacy, according to some analysts, was a reflection of a greater problem he faced as king: how to define his reign in a way that both respected the past and looked to the future. William himself continued to concentrate on his work despite the ongoing media attention. He kept up his engagements, going to gatherings that emphasized the causes he had supported for many years. For instance, it was believed that his participation in homelessness programs directly carried on his mother's legacy. During her son's early years, Diana famously took them to homeless shelters to teach them the value of empathy and taking decisive action. William was now an adult who was using his position to raise awareness of the same problems, supporting his mother's view that royalty should be more about service than prestige. The royal family's generational transition was becoming more and more obvious. Younger audiences were intrigued by William's strategy because they had grown up hearing tales about Diana. He stood for a monarchy that was more approachable and more rooted in the problems that regular people face on a daily basis. Palace advisors, who were keenly aware of the shifting demographics of royal support, were not blind to this change in attitude. Even while the monarchy was still highly respected, it was obvious that people like William and Princess Catherine, who had developed a reputation for being approachable and having contemporary leadership, would be crucial to its continued relevance for future generations. In the meantime, political and media circles were still debating how the monarchy should change. For years, there had been calls for reform of the institution, with some arguing that its function should be more symbolic in a Britain that was changing quickly. William's popularity rekindled discussions about the type of leadership the nation wanted from its future king. While the argument over the monarchy's continued significance was not new, his focus on openness, social concerns, and community involvement was viewed as a possible template for a more contemporary monarchy that could uphold its historical value while adjusting to current demands. Even though William's position was well received, the royal family as a whole continued to struggle with controlling public opinion. This was just one of many periods of change and adaptation throughout the monarchy's existence. William's popularity was a plus, but it also made people wonder how the other members of the family would fit into the story as it developed. Despite his regard, King Charles did not enjoy the same amount of public fervor as his son. The boundaries of his authority were still being established, and William's power seemed to increase every day. William's position in the family kept growing as the year went on. His attendance at significant public gatherings and growing participation in important royal engagements demonstrated his significance in determining the destiny of the monarchy. It was still difficult to strike a precise balance between tradition and modernity, but it was clear that William was already taking on a leadership role that went beyond his official title. His capacity to manage the public's and the institution's expectations would be crucial in deciding the future of the monarchy. There was little indication that the discussions over Diana's legacy, William's expanding power, and the royal family's destiny would slow down. This event marked yet another phase in the monarchy's continuous development, which had always been molded by its capacity to withstand change. Whether on purpose or not, William had started a conversation about what the monarchy should stand for in the contemporary world. The question of how the royal family will adjust grew more urgent as long as public curiosity remained high. The organization had to strike a balance between the demands of advancement and the weight of history. Even while King Charles was still the recognized head of state, it was becoming more and more obvious that William was determining the course of the monarchy. The effects of Prince William's recent comments about preserving Diana's legacy were still hotly debated. As he worked to establish his position within the royal family, many saw him as the link between tradition and modernity, the one who could guide the monarchy into a period more in line with modern ideals. His popularity had risen to unprecedented heights.